Hello, my beautiful furniture friends. Today we have a very unique and beautiful mess. The damage on the top is beyond repairing. There are chunks of decorative pieces that are missing. I can tell that somebody tried refinishing this piece back in the day, because even though there are some pieces of veneer that are missing, you can tell that they were trying to disguise the damage by staining over those parts. My goal is to refinish it in such a way that is functional so that somebody out there finds a need to have it and bring it into their own home. Not completely sure how this is gonna look at the end. If you're up for an adventure, you probably want to stick around for today's transformation. When looking at the gutted interior, I got curious and decided to search to see if I would find a similar piece to get a better idea of how it might have looked, and this is what I found. Since the serial number was removed with the actual sewing machine, I couldn't see a lot of information, but if I had to take a guess, I would say this cabinet goes back to the 1950s, 1960s area period. And I thought that if I added at least one shelf to the interior of this one, I could make it even more functional. Like people could store linens, bottles, make it a coffee station even. The one thing I'm sure of is that the veneer on the top needs to come off, so I'm just gonna use a wet rag and an iron to hopefully loosen the glue, lift it up. One of the challenges that I'm running into deciding what to do with the cabinet, stain it or paint it, are those parts of the veneer with the jagged edges I pointed at the beginning of the video. If I paint the cabinet, I would have to fill the curvy parts with Bando, and I'm not sure how even I could make them all look. And if I stained it, I would have to compromise, because whatever amount of sanding I do, I have to be very gentle due to the inconsistency of those edges. There are two things that I want to tackle today, and that is to at least sand any glue residue that was left after I removed the veneer. The other thing that I'm certain about is that there is this frame surrounding a square piece right here on the top, and when I press on it, there's definitely some movement on the edge, so I know I have to glue that, and the rest is just going to be a surprise for you and me. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for hanging out with me as I figured out the best way to honor this older lady and try to make it more useful. By the way, I find some of these imperfections absolutely perfect. The more I sanded, the more I wanted to see how it would look restained. But before beginning to contemplate the idea of staining it, compromises would have to be made. Since some of the decorative pieces were missing, I would have to remove some of the existing ones. This way, the cabinet will still look symmetric. As I'm unscrewing the hardware, I'm placing it inside a container that has 50-50 ratio of white vinegar and water. This is gonna help loosen up all that grime that has accumulated over time, and then tomorrow when I scrub it, that grime is gonna come off much easier. As I'm getting farther along into sanding, it's becoming more obvious that there are some parts of the inside of the cabinet that are in rougher shape than the outside, and that is the bottom and the back of the front doors. Not only was the veneer broken back here, but there were also very large bubbles, and I just decided that I was just gonna tear those parts of the veneer off. We're just gonna fill them and repair them with Bando, and we're definitely gonna be painting parts of the interior. Morning, Luna. You ready for today? You ready for today? Good morning, friends. If you see a lot of darkness under my eyes, it's because we've been having soccer every evening and at a very long distance. So it's been running. And today I need a couple of these before I can make it out to the garage. But I wanted to let you know that I'm still struggling a little bit about this piece. I think the main reason why I'm struggling is because the veneer at some point had broken off, and you can tell that somebody glued it back, and it's glued back, except that it's not smooth. There are some rough spots that I just feel like if the sander hits it just right, it's gonna make it fly up. The other thing that I thought was about using a chemical stripper. With that, you have to scrub off any residue, and I feel like I can't really scrub this piece, okay? That's how fragile it is. Let's go and see what we come up with. Maybe once I'm there, an idea will come up. I think since the inside is in such a great shape, I'm gonna leave it as is, but this bottom definitely needs some work. Veneer, this part needs some re-gluing here, and I'm sure the pedestal from the sewing machine was sitting here, I'm sure, and so it looks rough, and we can make it look a little better and then just paint over that. So I think that's how I'm gonna go about the bottom. These are the parts that I worried about. Maybe push something in there so that this sits firmly against wood putty. Maybe I didn't wanna paint this in its entirety. That's also the other thing that I'm struggling in my brain. There's also a resin that this company makes that matches this color that I think I wanna use to fill in these gaps and even try to make a claw. And it's obviously not going to be perfect when I'm done with it. That's very clear, but nothing for sure, but let's get going. We're gonna give it a try, but first let's add the hardening cream to the putty. This is a two-part product called Bando, and we're gonna mix it well, apply a good amount of it to fill in all those gaps that are missing, and then we're gonna wait about an hour or so before sanding. I'll be using this quick cure wood putty from System 3. It comes already stained in the color black walnut, which I think it gets really close to the color that we have going on. I really want to try and apply a gel stain after I'm done filling up all those gaps where the veneer broke off. So this is made out of resin, and you mix 1-to-1 ratio of the resin with the hardener. 3-minute work time. I want to try and see if I can mimic the claw. I would say that's pretty close to 50-50. It's really moldable. More moldable than anything I've used before. Okay, I'm just gonna go for it, you guys. Maybe a little too soft, huh? I'm gonna try and shape that some. To give it that shape of a claw here. It's not gonna be perfect by any means. This is my first time at trying a pedicure, so don't judge me. I really tried. And then I went ahead and fill in the rest of the gaps that I felt like they needed some wood putty. The fact that this putty was so close to the original stain was extremely helpful in camouflaging everything that I was doing. So I think that there's hope, and we are gonna be able to stain the outside of the cabinet, which I'm super excited at the possibility of it. Let the Bando repairs, the System 3 quick wood putty dry for 1 hour. If you guys remember, as I pushed down on this middle piece, you could see some movement, so I want to glue that. And I'm also getting rid of these cracks that are all throughout, by applying a little bit of glue and sanding over it right away.
If you have a syringe to inject the glue for this part, that's ideal, but I haven't bought new ones. And for these cracks that are tiny, as soon as I'm done applying the glue, I'm wiping off the excess and then I sand right away. This really works like magic and it makes those tiny cracks disappear right before your eyes. Let's see how the pedicure is gonna turn out after all.
I'm doing a close-up so you can see how it sands, but it reminds me of regular wood filler.
All the repairs are being sanded with 120 grit, and there is one more repair we need to tackle here.
We have a piece here that was already broken off when I found this piece at the secondhand store. So my goal is to straighten up the angle, and hopefully when I'm sanding it, it'll just even out. I'm not sure if I'm gonna stain the top. I'm not sure that I'm gonna like that, and I don't want to put a sheet of wood veneer because there's different grooves here. I don't know yet, guys.
After using this two-part epoxy to make the front edge straighter, I also use a pen trying to mimic the look of wood grain.
I decided to use a gel stain. This is a highly pigmented stain that sits on the surface, so it's not as penetrating as regular stains. And because of its thick consistency, it's able to camouflage the dark and the stain. Just want you to see how thick gel stain is. That's why it's so great for unevenness and to cover imperfections. Go ahead, apply, and then wipe off the excess almost immediately. Otherwise it's gonna look too dark and it's gonna cover the wood veneered pattern that I have going on, and that's not my intent. I think if you're a beginner, I highly recommend to try a gel stain over a regular one. It's just a lot more forgiving. You also need less gel stain too, so you don't have to grab a lot of it. You don't need it. Really goes a long ways. I've used it on a lot of different pieces that are not perfect. I just want to show you how the piece on the left looks compared to the right after adding the gel stain. Huge difference, right? Just one coat. If you have some areas that are looking off, you can always do a light second coat on those parts. I'm not 100% sure that I'm gonna keep the top stain, but I want to see how it stains. If it stains good, then I'll leave it, and if not, I have something else in mind that I wanted to try. We shall see.
I'm happy to report that the gel stain took in really well, so I'm leaving it just as is. We're just going to be painting the parts on the inside where we made the bundle repairs. To prime it, I'm using clear shellac. I'm gonna be applying 2 coats, waiting half hour between the first and second coat, and then I'm gonna come back, scuff sand all the sheen that this clear shellac leaves in preparation for paint. While that dries, I'm gonna be scrubbing the hardware and see how it looks. They don't look so pretty, so I'm gonna have to spray paint them. 2 coats of this paint and primer in one from Rust-Oleum in the color black. I got really lucky and had some leftover wood from last week's project, the arch cabinet. And guess what? It's the exact size that I need to build a shelf for this cabinet. I'm just going to iron the veneer edging and then stain it to match the rest of the cabinet. By adding the shelf, I'm hoping that the cabinet is gonna be more functional and people will find different ways to use it. The way that the iron-on veneer edging works is that it has glue on this side, and when you press the heat from the iron against it, it starts loosening or activating that glue, and that's how it attaches to the piece of wood. So let's get going. The only thing that I make sure is that the top is flush with the shelf, and then I can't worry about aligning the rest later. I cut off any excess. Sometimes the edges are a little rough, so you can sand them, and went straight to staining. I thought the original hardware was gonna look really plain if I just left it black, so I ended up mixing a little bit of the black and antique gold gilding wax. This turns into a dark gold that is just perfect for an antique piece. I'm gonna be applying milk paint in the color lamp black from General Finishes. I wanted to choose a color that wasn't gonna be too bright in comparison to the rest of the piece. So I don't want anything too drastic or crazy. Today I'm protecting my new finish, and since I waited plenty of time for my oil-based stain to dry, I can safely apply my water-based top coat high performance flat from General Finishes without worrying about the top coat clouding the new finish. We made it to the finish line, friends, and let's take a quick look at our before and after. The gel stained work beautifully, and I have to say that this piece looks 10 times better. And that is amazing because we didn't have to strip the old finish. Let me know in the comments, how would you use this piece if it were in your home? As a wine bottle storage, linen storage, or a coffee station? I will see you guys next time.